Chaos and Conversation. I'm already upset today. That's because Shawn he's pressing my buttons. He's James Franklin coming into Ann Arbor, talking his talk, trying to walk his walk. And I want him to do well this weekend for a myriad of reasons. And the disrespect already, but you know what? I don't care. It's like Nick Saban. You're going to cry about it until your quarterback's back. Welcome to the show, everybody. Our boy, Shawn Coleman, down to the right. Wave to everybody, please.
Go Penn State.
Yeah, that's how we're starting off. Excited to bring in our folks from the Weekenders, also with MMG. The host of the Weekenders, also our man, the Heisman watch list. No drip on today, unfortunately. But he'll have the drip on tomorrow in the video. Mr. Maxwell Millington, good evening, sir.
What's going on? I didn't know if the video was going to be put out or not, so I didn't put on my chain. But thank you for acknowledging the drip.
Oh, we always acknowledge the drip, always. And the video will definitely be out. We'll have some clip of that. And Mr. Robert Howie. I'm not sure I can call you Maybach Bobby anymore.
No.
I'm not sure I can call you by full name, Bobby Howard. I guess because the Thunder beat the Pistons in a preseason game today, you got a win. We're thinking of you. We're here for you. Here's a drink to you.
Fair enough. For the record, look, no, I'm not going to gloat over a win over the Pistons in preseason. I don't think about the Pistons that much. I don't think about them at all, in fact. But no, I'm not Maybach Bobby. I believe at one point I told Maxwell I'm more like Bus Pass Bobby at the moment.
We did see that.
The win-loss record is atrocious. But at the same time, just trying my best, trying to stay humble, just trying to stack some wins at this point, just trying to get any sort of wins at this point. So, but no, glad to be on here. Glad to make my debut on Chaos and Conversations.
My man, Wednesday. When people are seeing this, it'll be Wednesday, October 12th. But Saturday, the reason why we're all here is on for Saturday, October 15th. Shake Up Saturday in college football. One of the best slates that I can remember, with it being as impactful as it is this late for some of the more important historical teams in the country. And there is no other place than we are starting at Neyland Stadium, 3:30 CBS game. You guys are used to the Gary Danielson and talking SEC. He's going to be the voice of the Big Ten here pretty soon, which is crazy. Hopefully not.
Bye, DD. No bad.
Hopefully not. But it's the third Saturday in October, and we have to go to Neyland Stadium. Alabama versus Tennessee, one of the biggest rivalries in the South. Alabama is a 7.5-point favorite. The over-under is 65. We are starting with none other than Mr. Shawn Coleman. Who's the best player in this game?
Bryce Young, if he plays, and if not him, it's Will Anderson. No doubt about it. Now,
why?
It's just simply because of their overall ceiling as players. I mean, Bryce Young is a defending Heisman Trophy winner. He has potential. I don't think he will this year, but there's the potential, outside potential, that he could be back-to-back Heisman winner. Then Will Anderson is, if you want to call him a generational defensive talent, that's fine. We've seen that used before and not be accurate, but I think the production is there with him. But yeah, those guys are, the highest ceiling guys in terms of, being on the field. Now, you can make an argument for Hendon Hooker all day that you want to, because he's played phenomenal this year. He's the biggest reason why Tennessee is 5-0, and they're looking at this game being a battle of top 10 teams. But it's Bryce Young and Will Anderson, and that's the reason why Alabama is the clear favorite, and they're clearly the better team. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win, but they are clearly the favorite team.
Are they the favorites without him playing?
No. I think that you could potentially put them as the favorite score-wise, and if you want to say that they're, more talented overall, that's perfectly fine. But I do feel that Hendon Hooker would be able to get the job done. I would feel very confident that we could beat Alabama at home without Bryce Young. I don't think we're going to experience that. I think we could still beat Bryce Young, or Alabama if Bryce Young plays. But I do think that if Bryce Young does not play, I do think that we could find our defense could create enough pressure to cause chaos. No pun for the show.
Well done.
For Milroe to get in some situations where he can make some turnovers. So Alabama may still be favored in that game, but I easily can make an argument Tennessee could win the game if Bryce Young's not playing. If he is, it becomes harder. I'll put it this way: if Bryce Young is playing, I'll give Tennessee 30 to 35% chance. If Milroe's playing, 47 to 53% chance.
I like that. Maxwell, let's throw it over to you. Gary Danielson, it's about 6:45, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Tennessee is about to take they're about to be in victory formation 3 straight times to win the game and let the clock run out. Should Alabama lose, will they be punished? Or will they be punished? And you can hear Gary Danielson backing them up right now like, oh, they didn't have their quarterback. They're going to be fine. They can still make the college football playoff. But should they be punished? Because there's a reason why they were number 1 in the country to start the year. Bryce Young played against Texas. Not very well till the last 8 to 12 minutes of the game. But I just know this is what happens in the SEC. And as a Big Ten guy, I'm tired of it, but I can see what's going to happen. But I'll throw it to you. Should Alabama lose on Saturday, what's going to happen?
So I'll tell you that they should be punished. I'll just go ahead and say that. Will they be punished? I think the AP is going to continue to hold water for Alabama like they always do. So I don't expect the AP to really fairly rank Alabama where they probably should after a loss to Tennessee. But I think the committee, will look at it, and I mean the committee rankings are still about a few weeks away, so things could change. But after that game, after that result, I don't see where you necessarily look at a path for Alabama to be a top 5 team or a playoff team, because you're going from that loss to now you look at we'll see what happens. Mississippi State is a very good team, but they'll play that game in Tuscaloosa. They have a bye week, and then you have committee rankings after that going into LSU. So for me, I think that depending on what happens up until we get to the committee rankings, it's gonna be very hard to find a quality win for Alabama, because we've seen them, just barely make it against Texas and Texas A&M. And again, the Mississippi State result withholding, that would be a good win if they win that game. But, they're going to have to win by a couple of scores for even that to be, for even that to get them anywhere in the college football playoff discussion in the event they lose at Tennessee. So they're probably going to they probably should take a big hit. Will they? We'll see. But I don't expect the AP to really move them down too far.
Bobby, this 7.5 point spread at the moment is with the Tide on the road. So they would be saying that for them, obviously at Bryant Stadium, they would be favored by close to 2 scores. Basically, theirs is with Bryce Young, I'm assuming, playing. Is this line too much or just right, you think?
I feel like it's just right in the sense that, we really don't know a ton about Alabama under Jalen Milroe. Things have been tricky. Obviously we saw that great comeback against, Arkansas a couple of weeks ago, and then a little bit shaky against a Texas A&M team that we have seen be very, very flawed. But that being said, this is a series that has been absolutely dominated by Alabama since 2006. The Volunteers have not won a single game since 2006. It is they complete, like, the Crimson Tide completely live within the head of that Tennessee program, 100%. And it's hard to look at Nick Saban and Alabama in a Tennessee game and think 7 points is absurd. And in my mind, looking at it, if this was at Bryant-Denny, 7 points, a lock. Hell, I would say 12 points, probably also a lock. I think this is going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be a close, like a kind of close game around that point. But I feel like the Alabama Crimson Tide are just little bit too damn good. And obviously, they showed some weakness last week against Texas A&M and everything. But to me, I feel like the line's just pretty spot on. I know Neyland could be rocking, and the orange out, all of that is going to be absolutely crazy. But at the same time, Alabama just beats Tennessee. That's just what they do. That's what they've done since really like Saban showed up. I guarantee you there will not be a single Alabama fan who does not walk into that stadium without a cigar ready to light up in the fourth quarter. So to me, I feel like the line's right. I feel like, I will say this, I feel like of any year that Tennessee can get it done, this is it. But, I mean, it's so hard to bet against Saban. It is so hard to bet against Saban, especially in this game. So, tricky, very tricky.
Prediction, Bobby, we're starting with you.
Yeah. So if I had to predict, man, it's tricky. And as much as I'd love to pick Tennessee, I love the energy in Neyland. I feel like this is the type of game that is like a mousetrap, that nice little tasty win on the road, underdog, like that home dog road, it's just waiting for you to take it. But I'm not going to take it because Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide, they'll get this done. I think they get the win. I think they cover the spread. And I think Tennessee, unfortunately, just has another example of heartbreak.
Bobby, that is – all right, we're going to find out because I'm interested to see whether you're going to hold true on that on your Saturday picks. Maxwell, the floor is yours, brother.
Yeah, I don't know if Bryce Young is really healthy. And then again, even if he is I just haven't seen what I need to see from Alabama to make me feel comfortable with picking them to win this game, especially going into Tennessee. I think Tennessee has faced a lot of tough challenges this year. They've come out on top. I know Nick Saban is the biggest X factor or one of the biggest X factors in all of sports. But I don't feel comfortable. I just don't with the status of Bryce Young up in the air, and then how Alabama has looked this year. I just can't take them to win this game. I think Tennessee, they like I said, face a lot of challenges. They're gonna be. Hendon Hooker is playing absolutely out of his mind. I think he's going to be able to keep the game in control. I think they're going to be able to, keep drives alive. Tennessee's offense is explosive. They get a lot of yards. They score a lot of points. So I think in that type of situation, will it be high scoring? I don't think so because Nick Saban's going to be able to, and that defense, they're going to be able to control things a little bit. But this Alabama team is is not as talented as teams of the past. And I think because of that, and I think because of, again, the uncertainty with Bryce Young and what Alabama showed this year versus what Tennessee has showed, I'm going to have to go with Tennessee. Not sure what the spread and everything looks like, but I think Tennessee has what it takes to win in this situation.
Hold on, Max. You said they have what it takes in this situation?
Yeah, in this situation, like all circumstances considered, Bryce Young's status at Tennessee, this being Alabama team that's just not as dominant as other Alabama teams. I think this is the perfect storm for Tennessee to win this game. This isn't just like
give me a score. I'm holding to it.
I'd say I feel comfortable with 29 to 23, something like that. I think I would take the under on 65 for sure.
With either quarterback.
What do you mean? Sorry.
If Bryce Young plays, does Tennessee still win?
Yeah, because hey,
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know because we still haven't. Even if he plays, okay, he may be healthy enough to play, but we don't know how effective will be. The shoulder injury is, I mean, it's a, it's not an ankle or hamstring. Like for a quarterback, you need your shoulder, right? So, I don't, with that, not knowing how he looks, exactly, like I would still, even if he does play, I would still say I feel like Tennessee can get it done. Again, based on the way their offense is playing as well, give them credit on what they've been able to do. If they can put up points, if they can sustain drives, like you're going to have to rely on an injured Bryce Young to do the same. And I don't know if they're going to be able to match that, unless they figure out their offense in 1 week, it would be tough even for Nick Saban. So I don't know. I like Tennessee a lot this week.
Okay.
I'm going 34-35 to 31, one team or the other.
No, God dang it. We're not doing that, Sean.
That I think that Alabama, if Bryce Young plays, I think that it's going to be Alabama. I do think.
Okay.
My heart wants me to say Tennessee. The key to this game is the word rush. That's the key to this game in multiple situations. If Jahmyr Gibbs, is it Jahmyr Gibbs? I think it's Jahmyr. If Jahmyr Gibbs has a huge game for Alabama, and that allows for either Milroe or Young to be able to go into play action against our defense, who's going to be without one of our starting safeties who was arrested over the week. That is going to be a hard thing for us to be able to beat. But if our pass rush, which we sell out with our pass rush sometimes and leave our defensive backs on an island, if they can get home a few times, especially early, I think that can set a tone, and especially if it's a Milroe, I think that can cause him some shaky setups for him. So I think that's the rush side is going to be at Tennessee. Also, a couple of things coming into this, had their best rushing game arguably since Heupel took over against LSU last week. Our first road win against a ranked opponent in 27 years. Last year, Heupel scored more points against Alabama than any other Tennessee team has done since 2006. So there are trending things here. And the other thing that I'll say is this. If Tennessee's rushing the ball well, then you have Brew McCoy, Jalen Hyatt, Ramel Keaton, and hopefully Cedric Tillman, all who could be options. One of the best wide receiving courts in the nation. So I think that Tennessee's going to score. I think that whoever wins this game, you're definitely going to have to get into the 30s. And so I'll go 35-31. I think Young plays. I think Alabama wins. But if Tennessee wins, oh my goodness.
I love it. Go ahead, Max.
I just want to add real quick, watch out for another thing. We talked a lot about the offense, but turnover differential. Tennessee is +6. Alabama's -5. So Bryce Young doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but if Tennessee can take some opportunities from Alabama defensively and create some turnovers, then that could be a huge swing in the game too.
And it's fumbles. The reason why is because our blitz being able to get to good angles on the ball carrier or the quarterback, it's fumbles that are helping us out.
And not only that, but if Tennessee can get those hits in early and really get that Neyland crowd going, oh my God! Like I'm just saying, it'll be crazy. What was it? What's the saying they say around Knoxville? Feels like 98.
Absolutely, it does. I'm not saying we're going to feel like that, but I'm just saying, man, if we win, whoo, Rocky Top will be sung all through the South. All right, we'll go on this. One more thing, come on! All right, there we go. Go ahead.
It deserved a 20-minute preview.
Yes, it did. The Tennessee Vols are going to cover regardless. They will get in the 30s. If Bryce Young doesn't play, Tennessee's actually winning by 2 scores.
I hope so.
2 scores better.
And
it's because I think Hidden Nooker, if he has time, and Saban's, everybody knows that when it comes to Saban, unless it's Burrow. Actually, I actually think he's a pretty decent mobile quarterback. Mobile quarterbacks give Saban defenses problems. Any quarterback that can be able to extend plays. And another thing that Tennessee does a really good job of, and one of the things I saw what Texas did, swing passes are going to be huge. You got to be able to use what Will Anderson and the pressure they're going to bring from the side. Swing passes, getting the ball outside right away. I think is going to be very helpful. Some delayed screens as well. Heupel's also, you know what? Heupel's an offensive genius. I'm just call it what it is. I think he's very creative. I think he's one of the reasons of why some people have had getting jobs. Just going to throw that out there from him being an offensive coordinator at certain places. And as well as why there's certain quarterbacks who got to be pretty decent. But he's a damn good coach. And I like where he's going. I think he's one of the better offensive minds in the SEC. Tennessee, 35. Alabama, 31. Yeah.
Let's do a little bit of trivia. Where did Nick Saban go to college?
Kent State.
Where did Josh Heupel go to college?
I plead the fifth. Actually, no. Sorry, I'm not going to disrespect an Oklahoma legend like that.
How you not?
I'm not going to disrespect an Oklahoma legend like Josh Heupel.
This leads to another.
My boy
question.
Stoops. Bob Stoops did my boy Josh a little dirty there. Fired him. Got Lincoln Riley up in there. We don't really know how to feel about it. I'm not going to lie. Well,
my
Shawn,
question,
it's not the third grade. You don't need to raise your hand.
my questions didn't end, though. Would Kent State be better if they hired Nick Saban than they currently are right now?
I think one would say so.
Now apply that same question to Oklahoma.
Here's the thing, Shawn. I don't think you understand like some of the drama with it. Josh Heupel wants nothing to do with Oklahoma.
Oh, I know he doesn't, and that's the reason why. That's the reason why. Because we talk about Josh Heupel for a second. The thing that stands out to me about Josh Heupel, I don't really have a worry about him. I think that Heupel has the talent, has the offensive mind about him to turn Tennessee into a perennial top 20 program. I'm not going to say they're going to be national championship, contenders year in and year out. But what I'll say is this, where Heupel concerns me is not necessarily him going to another college. It's if he develops a talent like Hooker. Mm-hmm. He goes and is better than expected in the NFL. The next guy we come in, whether it's Nico or whether it's a transfer, they come to Heupel. They go to the NFL and are better than expected. 3 to 5 years down the line, does the NFL come calling for Heupel? That's my concern. I don't think that it's necessarily that big of a possibility, but that's where we stand. I do agree with ML, though. I think that Heupel is a very good coach. I do think that he's showing that he could put Tennessee among the top 5 SEC teams year in and year out.
I mean, they certainly have the resources. And, that I wouldn't think that Heupel's a flight risk by any means. And, he's a boy from South Dakota. So it's not exactly like, he's craving to go out to Los Angeles or somewhere. But then again, our guy was from Muleshoe, Texas. So you never know. But I don't know. You never know. You never know with Heupel. But that's kind of the double-edged sword of success, I suppose.
But it's a lot of fun. But we're going to have some fun here because, my host or my co-host always does a phenomenal job of supporting me, hyping me up, and showing love for my Let's sit here and offer the same opportunity because a few spots in front of Tennessee, you've got Michigan at the Big House welcoming in Penn State. Penn State, who surprisingly, Sean Clifford has been, one of the emerging talents at quarterback this year, but you've got a rushing attack with Michigan that is showing out consistently, and that's where I think Michigan's high floor, their consistency of being able to produce really stands out among teams in the top 10. But when you look at Penn State, you look at that number 10 beside their name, it's surprising to see them that high. I think that's a game also to watch this weekend. I think Michigan is going to be just fine, but that's going to be another intriguing matchup against 2 top 10 teams. But when it comes to these 2 teams, it's the other game amongst top 10 teams this week. And I think what it comes down to, Max, is a battle of quarterbacks. I think that you've got 2 very good quarterbacks here who don't make mistakes. That's why the high floor aspect, exists with these teams. But you've got 2 coaches that know each other very well. Who's the better coach? who makes the difference in this game, potentially going outside of the norm when you've got two coaches who typically keep it pretty conservative, and that's why you don't see so many mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had a lot of credit to Franklin at Penn State for what he's doing and what he's done since he's been there. I mean, he's phenomenal. But I think Jim Harbaugh is the better coach, and I don't think that's a hot take or anything like that. I think people respect what he's done at the college level and at the NFL level and what he's now done at Michigan. And I'll take that a step further with the context of last year. I think Jim Harbaugh is the better coach. But I think he slayed this dragon last year, but, college, like greatness, whatever you want to call it, it's all about consistency, right? So, all right, loses to Michigan State, not acceptable by Michigan standards, but is able to beat Ohio State, is able to, reach the heights that they did last year. So now, again, I think Jim Harbaugh is the better coach to answer your question, but the question for me is how does Jim Harbaugh coach his guys to not allow this to be a letdown spot for the Wolverines, because we've seen Harbaugh lose games he's not supposed to lose, and in my opinion, this is a game that Michigan is not supposed to lose. If you're the number 5 team in the country and you're going after another Big Ten championship, so that's where I'll leave it. But I think Harbaugh is the better coach.
I mean, I agree. I think Jim Harbaugh definitely has an edge on Franklin, and that's not a disrespect to Franklin. Jim Harbaugh has coached a Super Bowl. He is a legitimately incredibly good coach of all football, college, NFL, Pee Wee. You put him out there, he's going to coach football very, very well. At the same time, I would like to say on Maxwell's point about this being potentially a letdown game, it's a top 10 game. I mean, this is the moment at least Michigan fans, I know, have been waiting for. They've been disrespected across the board for their schedule. And I imagine, these kids are on Twitter. They see the buzz. They know that everyone's like, Michigan ain't played nobody. They're playing all these like garbage teams in the, in the non-conference, and they struggled against Maryland. You better believe me that they are ready to like absolutely let her rip against a Penn State team that has, while they are very good, I think they're a very good team. They have some very solid wins under their belt. They've shown weakness. Just their last performance, 17-7 against Northwestern. Not great. This is a game I feel like Michigan's going to be absolutely up for. It's at home. It's at the Big House in Ann Arbor. I'm just saying, I really like Harbaugh to get his boys up for this, get them going, and in terms of coaching for this game, it's a no doubter for me. It's Harbaugh.
Is there a unanimous Heisman guy so far this season? That site. Go ahead, Max.
I feel like that's a way to ruin Max's weekly segment. That'd make that really boring.
No. I mean, because I'm formatting it a little different now, to where it's like we know some of the names, so let's talk about whose stock is going up and down each week. But we were just having this conversation before the show. I think if the voting were to end today, I think the guy that has separated himself not only by his performance but also by the team and everything else that goes into Heisman voting as we know it, I think C.J. Stroud has separated himself for sure.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because these games that we're talking about this week, where we've got 6 ranked teams playing against each other, this is the opportunity for you to start to get some hierarchy when it comes to the Heisman voting. And when you've got Blake Corum there, who now has 730 yards, you've got him with 11 touchdowns so far this season, going against a Penn State rushing defense that's been very good, though they've not faced a lot of high-level competition. That's the reason I asked that question. C.J. Stroud probably does stand out right now, but then you get Blake Corum being the difference maker, multiple touchdowns, approaching 200 yards rushing. You're looking at him having that staple game against a quality opponent that really could propel him up there. I know that it's more likely it's a quarterback now than you've seen it before, but the difference in this game is Corum. It absolutely is. I think that Penn State's rush defense is not as good as the numbers suggest because they haven't faced that good of a talent. But I think that when we're talking about, when you ask the question, who's the best player on the field in this game, the most impactful, it's Corum for Michigan, in my opinion. And this is the type of game where he should be motivated to really make a statement and clearly be in that top 3 or 4 of the Heisman voting once it's done.
Let me give you some quick stats real quick. I'm ready. I'm prepared. Because anytime as soon as we were done with Indiana, I just get really excited when I know we're about to play James Franklin. Lots of reasons for that. Lots of reasons. I'll keep them off the air for now, but let's just dive into it real quick. Harbaugh at home since he's been in Ann Arbor. 2015 to Michigan State, the fumble off the punt block. I don't even want to call it a block. A punter didn't know what they were doing. Fluke game, rivalry. 2015, lost to the Ohio State team that had lost to Michigan State the week before. The last Ezekiel Elliott team, incredible game. Lost to Michigan State, backup quarterback Monsoon, great. Ohio State lost 2017 at home, unbelievable team. That was the Dwayne Haskins replacing JT Barrett game. And 2019 versus Ohio State. Shea Patterson, you know the rest. We were clearly not as good as those teams. Those are the only home losses for Jim Harbaugh outside of the 2020 season, which I think is fair for everybody to say wasn't a real full season of college football and the staggered schedules, etc. His record against Penn State at home is 2-0 in those times. Combined score 91-17. Against ranked opponents at home, he not named Ohio State or Michigan State. He's 7-0 with an average margin of victory, 21 points. The only games that were one-possession games were 2016 against Iowa, or 2016 against Wisconsin, 2019 against Iowa. Guys, I'm telling you, this team, when they play Penn State, and it is personal with them against Franklin, they are going to be ready to go. 7 points isn't enough. We're going to win by 2 scores. Just letting you guys know that right now. J.J. McCarthy also is going to ascend into where he is unquestionably the second-best quarterback in the Big Ten. There are teams that will have better numbers, obviously in my opinion, I love Aiden O'Connell. I think he can actually be a good NFL player. Don't worry about the Purdue quarterbacks. I think Brom has done a good job in terms of coaching him. And obviously, Tagovailoa in Maryland, I think he's actually a pretty good quarterback. But JJ is going to ascend, and he needs this one under his belt. And then you just get ready for the Michigan State game, and you just know they're going to throw the whole kitchen sink because that'll be the end of it. May's out. 4 straight games, big noon or high noon is that on. We are getting that broadcast team and Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt on big noon on Fox. We're going to get it done. We're winning by 2 scores, and I think Maxwell will have to put us in the top 4. We're not going to be in the top 5 next week. If you don't have us in the top 4 in your rankings, there's a problem with anybody who has any type of vote. You get a top 10 win, we need to be in the top 4. And yes, that even means if Tennessee wins. They all need to pass up Clemson. Clemson's best win right now still is at Wake Forest. Maxwell doesn't think Wake Forest is any good. He's not scared of them at Chapel Hill. I'm telling you that right now. We need to be in the top 4 if they get handled things against Penn State. I'll leave it at that.
And I'll say this, if Tennessee beats Alabama, they should be number 1. They won't be, but they should be. And the reason why is because you stack up wins against Pittsburgh, Florida, LSU, and Alabama, even if those other 3 teams I mentioned haven't been as good as when we played them, where they were ranked, that's still, and us beating Alabama is going to be the most impressive victory anybody's had all season. So if Tennessee beats Bama, they should be number 1. If you
I'm not against that.
But
I'm not against that.
They won't be.
And the committee, if it's not the AP or the coaches poll, if this was the committee, I think they'd be hard pressed not to put them number 1.
Yeah,
for sure. If they're going by the right criteria, which they've done previously. Bobby, that's interesting for you because of you've seen it with Oklahoma, but the Big 12, they kind of beat each other up. But like before you have Bedlam, you just assume Texas is going to be okay. And there's been those times where Kansas State and Baylor have ascended, but then come the first rankings, you've beaten those teams. And then you feel as though you should be higher than maybe some of the SEC teams that haven't won as many games or most impressive games before their rankings, or they're ranked early and then they fall off. I think Tennessee has an argument if they were to beat Bama this weekend.
Tennessee absolutely has an argument. They've played arguably one of the best schedules in the country so far, and if they can, slay that dragon, take out Nick Saban in Alabama, they deserve every right to number one. Because there is not a solid number one right now. Georgia, almost lost to Missouri, had their great win against, I guess Oregon, whatever. Ohio State hasn't really played, much. And then, Clemson, I will say, I think gets a little bit too much disrespect. They do have 2 top 15 wins at the moment, which is pretty good. But beating Alabama, in addition to what they have, I mean, come on. That's a number one resume if I've ever seen one.
I do want to apologize. The NC State win at home, a top 15 win for Clemson. I apologize. I still think that Wake Forest, because I think the NC State may take a little bit. I think they may be fraudulent a little bit, and we may find that out again this weekend. I think Florida State should beat them last year. What do you think, Max?
Well, I was going to say, I know we have them on the docket later, so I don't want to dive into it too much. But to your point, Devin Leary's injured, so and he wasn't really playing all that great anyway, so. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but, as long as he's out, they're going to slide. I will say, though, I found this interesting stat. These are teams with multiple wins versus Power 5 teams who currently have a winning record as of recording. Tennessee's got 3, Clemson's got 2, Purdue's got 2, UCLA's got 2, Georgia's got 2, Notre Dame's got 2, USC has 2, Georgia Tech has 2. That's the list. So, to your points about Ohio State, this is going to be a big game for Michigan. Some teams, it'll be interesting to see what happens after this weekend for sure. But I think, for Tennessee's case being number one after they beat Alabama, I certainly think they've won, the appropriate games and have a great resume to be number one if they win that game. And then, again, just to give credit to some of the other teams up there, it'll be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's a great stat. I will be on the Weekenders next week because I think I need to be on there during a bye for Michigan and leading into the Michigan State game the other week. But I will make sure I bring stats about what I think is actually going to happen. We need to get past Saturday, though. I think we're getting past Saturday. Predictions from you all, Maxwell?
This is a tough game, and I really haven't, other than just doing the prep for the Weekenders, I haven't really gotten to chew on it yet. I think the most interesting thing for me, let me pull up the stat I was looking at. Michigan's defense has been great. Interesting thing, J.J. McCarthy is number 1 in adjusted completion rate, which means take out drops, take out throwaways. He's been the most accurate quarterback in college football this year. Penn State has held opponents to 49.6 completion percentage. So that passing game versus pass defense battle will be interesting, but I think Michigan sort of has, from a talent perspective, the ability to run the ball. Coaching, home, everything leans Michigan's way. I think Michigan's ready for this moment. I think what's going to be key is run the ball, limit mistakes. I think McCarthy's very accurate, so that should be fine. I think they just got to control. They just got to set the tone, control clock, be physical, and Michigan will be fine. I think they win the game. I think Penn State might cover though, or maybe backdoor cover. But I got Michigan getting the dub.
Bobby.
Yeah, no, I like the Wolverines as well. I think Penn State is still a very, very solid team. I think they're the 3rd best team in the Big Ten. That being said, I just it's a tier situation for me. It's Michigan, Ohio State, and everybody else. And to me, it being in Ann Arbor, these Michigan players have been waiting for a challenge like this since that late December night in Miami. They're ready for this, and I'm not just trying to preach to a pretty large Michigan crowd here. I just really think they're going to show up, get the job done against a team that they already have their number. Like Michigan already has Penn State's number. I think they're going to go through. Blake Corum has a good day. McCarthy has a good day. It just seems primed for a really, really solid Michigan win. 7 points seems like an easy take for me here. I like it. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout by any means, but I think 7, I feel comfortable with that by far.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, you got to pick your poison. And the reason why that is because if you're going to try to stack the box against Blake Corum, I believe it was Max's point, McCarthy's accuracy is what stands out. You talk about some of these quarterbacks that could do a really good job throwing deep on play action. Well, that's not the situation here. McCarthy can if he needs to, but it's the accuracy. You've got a very efficient offense with Michigan with how well Corum runs the ball and how many passes McCarthy completes. So if you try to stop one, you've got to deal with the other, and it's hard to do that. I don't think that Penn State has the hosses to be able to do it. To use a Southern term, I think that they basically are going to have a hard time being able to match the consistency of Michigan. So I will pick Michigan by more than 7. Let's see here. I'll go Michigan 31-21. I'll go Michigan.
Yes, sir. That's the score. I think that's exactly what the score is going to be. I think we got to get to 30s. We're going to just get in the 30s every game until we get to Columbus, Ohio, the fourth Saturday in November. You all know where my head's at. I'll tell you when Michigan's not good enough. I'll tell you when they're good enough. They're good enough right now, and I think they're going to be a top 4 team come the first Tuesday in November for the college football rankings. Let's toss it over to the West Coast. Before we go there, I just want to make sure that people understand is that J.J. McCarthy is going to prove on Saturday he's not a clown show. And the stats have already shown that, but just want to make sure we get that out there. Is USC this good, or is the schedule being good to them? And in fact, we're going to change it up. Maxwell, I want you to jump in on this. They're number 7 right now. According to the polls. I was not that impressed with the Fresno State, but you know what? It's all about getting a win. Same thing people would say about Michigan versus Maryland. Also was not that impressed against them against Oregon State. Oregon State needed a miracle 59-yard touchdown against Stanford to end the game last week, if I'm not mistaken. However, road game. Utah's a little bit of a different deal. This is defending Pac-12 champions. What are your thoughts, Maxwell?
Yeah, I don't really know how good USC is, to be quite honest with you. I think their ranking is due to the reputation of the program, Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams and their talent, and Jordan Addison. I mean, they're a talented team. Don't get me wrong. Great players, on the team. But, I mean, this strength of schedule is 99th in the country. They've had the easiest strength of schedule so far in the Pac-12. Now, things will get tougher for them. The remaining strength of schedule is 38th in the country. So we're going to get to see what the real, when they get tested. Obviously, they have to play at Utah. I believe they'll play at UCLA, but that will be a USC home game. Because no one is showing up to the Rose Bowl, but it doesn't seem to really matter because of the way Chip Kelly has that UCLA team going. So, I mean, that'll be interesting. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of it's been, I think, the schedule. We've seen them play some teams close maybe that they shouldn't have, but they're not at the point yet where they've developed, a completely dominant roster in terms of, having the years of recruiting and everything that normally, takes to create that. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is a good team. But I think schedule has been a huge part of their success so far.
What's Caleb Williams' biggest weakness, Bobby? You've seen him up close. I think is probably as close to anybody who covers college football.
Well, I mean, frankly, other than kryptonite, I'm not really sure what. But no, I will say, Caleb. Shoot, it's tricky because there are times when Lincoln Riley, and he has done this a lot this season specifically, and I was kind of bullish on a lot of his rushing props. He's kind of tried to make him more of a traditional quarterback this season, and he has a little bit of issues sometimes when you rush through drop bait. I will say Caleb's biggest issue sometimes it's just whatever they're really trying to play into the deep pass. I will say he has a lot of benefit on this new USC team with Travis Dye, the Oregon transfer, great running back. And then, Jordan Addison is excellent as well. But overall, I would say, really, it's just whenever you kind of force him to pass deep, that can be his biggest weakness. Now, keep in mind, a lot of when I saw him, he was a freshman, not prepped for being the guy at Oklahoma. Keep in mind, his whole spring, his whole prep up until then, it was Spencer Rattler, Heisman contender. So he has gotten a lot better at USC. Caleb Williams will not be the reason they lose this game against Utah. I'll say that flat out. He's the only reason, in my opinion, that they're going to have a chance against the Utes. So
yeah. Yeah. All right. I love you always talking and showing respect to Caleb, and you've even talked to us about how he saved Oklahoma many, many times last year, and which is why we're seeing, unfortunately, the after effects of him leaving a game of that nature. Knowing what you know about the schedules and seeing what you've seen thus far, Bobby, we're going to still keep it with you. Should Utah be favored in this game?
Yes, absolutely. And I know Utah obviously had their issues with, Florida to start the season, and then they frankly just got straight up beat by UCLA, who I think UCLA is a way better team than I think we thought entering preseason. I think they're big. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson is excellent. And I think they have instantly vaulted themselves into the Pac-12 competition.
Oh yeah,
I think they're damn good, and I think it's more about them than it is about Utah, who I think is still a very solid team. They're a very well disciplined team, very well coached team, and frankly, I think to me, I've been kind of preaching this since the start of the season. It's about the line of scrimmage. It's about the offensive line, the defensive line of the Utah Utes. I think that's going to really wear on USC. I think that's going to give them a challenge that they haven't had so far this season. Just looking at USC's schedule, they haven't really been tested a ton. I mean, they needed some damn Caleb Williams magic against Oregon State to pull out that win in Corvallis. They kind of played it tight against Arizona State at halftime, pulled away.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of played it tight against Washington State, pulled away. But this time, I think they're really dealing with a very good team in the Utah Utes, and I think Utah pulls it out. But I've been wrong before. So,
Shawn, can USC still make the college football playoff if they lose this game?
If they lose this game, it becomes hard for me to see them being able to do it. Now, I say that because I think that if they win this game, they actually probably have one of the easier schedules remaining moving forward. Could they? Sure. I mean, I think this USC team and their schedule is just like we've seen, 3, 4, 5 times before when Lincoln Riley was at Oklahoma. They were able to either run the table or they were able to get a loss, still be able to get into the playoff. And then, in my opinion, the defense just wasn't where it needed to be able to get the job done. I think that USC's defense is okay. I think they're legitimately, from top to bottom, one of the top 10 rosters in football, and I think Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the nation. So I actually do think that if they lose this game, they still could have a chance, but I think they need to win this game to where if there are 4 or more undefeated teams, this will be a standout victory for them to be able to have on their schedule. And I do think they pull off the win One of the things that makes me think Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the nation is that I think if it's a game where it's close, if things aren't going the way it needs to, he can make the throws to get the job done. If you need to have an offensive explosion, he can remain consistent to get the job done. So I'm going to pick USC in this game.
Maxwell, let's throw it to you. Do you think that USC can still make the college football playoff if they lose? And also give us your prediction.
Yeah, no, they're not making the playoff if they lose because you don't have a convincing win after that, or enough wins to like convince the committee that you belong there. You'd have to hope that other teams fall off. You'd have to hope that UCLA, you beat UCLA convincingly, or you beat UCLA, and maybe UCLA is a one-loss team. You'd have to hope Notre Dame is now 3-2. So Notre Dame's better. So that win could be good, depending on how many games they end up with. But Notre Dame has a pretty tough schedule. With that USC game plus Syracuse and Clemson. So they would have to if you lose that game, then a one-loss Pac-12 team. The Pac-12 is pretty good this year, but it's going to be tough to find that those wins that are going to get the committee's attention. But not impossible. But I would say very unlikely if they lose to Utah. Will they beat Utah? Man, this is tough. I thought Utah was going to beat UCLA. Utah is a really balanced team, really good on offense, really good on defense. Both of these teams don't allow a lot of points to opponents, which makes me think this won't be a high-scoring game. I think this will be more about the defenses, even though this is a battle of two great quarterbacks in Caleb Williams and Utah's quarterback Cam Rising.
Yes.
Am I doing that right? Yeah. Yep. So I think it's going to come down to who can get stops. I'll go with USC because Utah just let me down. I don't love. I'm not confidently picking USC, but I want that USC UCLA game to mean something on November 19th. So I'm gonna root for them to pull the win out.
I do want to say a quick thing. If they do lose to Utah on Saturday, keep in mind, I've mentioned this on pods before, the Pac-12 championship is now record-based. The divisions do not mean anything. So if you have the chance to avenge your loss, I think that actually does mean something in the committee's eyes. Speaking of Lincoln Riley doing that, he actually did that in 2018. Actually,
when they played back-to-back, right?
When they played Texas. They lost to Texas in Red River, then played him in Arlington, took him out. That was a big boost for them against, I believe, Georgia at the time. So it is a thing that is up for consideration, but you really kind of have to weirdly root for that team to win out.
That was the Baker year?
That was the Kyler year.
Kyler year where you lose. Okay, when you guys played Georgia. Okay, that's right. So lost to Texas early, then beat them in Arlington for the Big 12 championship.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, good deal. I think it'll be interesting to see for sure, no doubt about it. We could. It's crazy enough that we could maybe actually see USC, UCLA back-to-back, potentially as well.
Yeah, because they got
Notre Dame. There's the Notre Dame.
The in-between Notre Dame. Notre Dame USC is always the fourth Saturday if it's in LA. If it's in South Bend, they always play in October, and Notre Dame usually does their Stanford, their California game. Yep. Okay. Got it. What were we going to say, Maxwell?
Oh, I was just going to say, because there's no divisions in the Pac-12 this year, so that could be the Pac-12 championship.
Back-to-back conference games, so that'll be interesting if they're going to be playing a little lose here, we win that. Could be interesting because I think Alabama and Georgia, obviously, when they've had that almost same situation, almost in the college football playoff. Fun stuff. All right, we've reached our lightning round portion. By the way, Utah is favored -3.5. The over/under is 65. I think Max was right. The first team to 30 most likely wins, and therefore anybody in the 20s. Utah should handle business from there if they have righted their wrongs from last week. Bobby, the winner of the Okie State TCU game will win the Big 12. True or false?
I'm going to go false because this conference is an absolute who knows? It's a crapshoot. It is. I mean, when you have a 5-win Kansas, you can't say anything's for certain. I think both of these teams are incredible. I think they're honestly both the favorites, but shoot, I'm going to go ahead and say false just because I like the field more, especially when there's that Texas team that I just saw last week that, with Quinn Ewers looks pretty damn good. So not only am I not sure that the team that loses this game wouldn't win the Big 12, there's also, a boogeyman hanging out under the bed with a big old mullet in Austin. So I'm going to go ahead and say no.
Wow. We're definitely clipping this. Go ahead, Shawn.
I was actually going to say the winner of this Oklahoma State TCU game, I think that there is a bit of an extra energy to them after winning this game. To Bobby's point, I don't know. There's a very good chance that neither win out. But if they do, I absolutely think that when we talk about dark horse playoff contender, the winner of this game assumes that top spot. Because say you have a Tennessee beating in Alabama, then you have a Michigan or then a Georgia beating Tennessee, and then you have one of Michigan and Ohio State will lose. You wind up the season having only 2 undefeated teams of those top 6 right now. I do think that this is a staple win with enough of a strong enough rest of the schedule for each of these teams to where if they win out, including this game, they could be a dark horse contender for a playoff spot.
Well, I would say it's arguably disrespectful to call, especially if Oklahoma State wins, to call them a dark horse, because just take a look at the rest of the schedule. If they win out, you have TCU in Fort Worth. That's a win. You have, Texas in Stillwater. If they win that, that's big. They have to go on the road to play Kansas State, on the road to play Kansas, who is suddenly, I guess, good. You would have to beat Oklahoma in Norman, which, if you know the records, beating Oklahoma at all is a landmark achievement. They hang banners for that, act like it's their damn Super Bowl. So if Oklahoma State wins out, that is as good as any resume that Oklahoma has ever produced. That is as good as a playoff resume that anyone can put out there. And I think it's kind of unreal to talk about like that. Some of the more national people are talking about, is 2-loss Texas a playoff contender? Oklahoma State is right here. They've been playing great. And I hate to say it, but if they take care of business in the next 3 weeks, TCU, Texas, and K-State, and Kansas, 4 weeks, if they win those 4 games, they're absolutely in the playoffs. If they take care of business, that is a good football team, and I think people are overlooking the Pokes.
And I think the reason why it's a bit of a question is, to your point, don't want to disrespect, obviously, their success, but also there's also just the pedigree of the other teams. There's that natural little extra that comes, and I'm not talking about Tennessee. I'm talking about your Ohio State, your Bama's, your Georgias, all that. My point is, to your point, though, is that, just like I can make the argument right now that Tennessee absolutely has the schedule of a number 1 ranked team if they beat Alabama, though it's not likely to happen. Oklahoma State, if they were to win out, they absolutely have the resume of a playoff participant. It's just going to matter of who else is there.
Yeah, but I mean, Oklahoma State winning out a Big 12 champion. I think I think I'll put it this way: if OSU loses 1 game and wins the Big 12 championship, I think they're locked to be in. Just with how weird we've seen college football, I like them that much. And I know I'm rambling at this point. I think it's a very fair point. I got a stump for the Pokes here. I think they have a hell of a schedule. It's kind of a murderer's row where if they escape with 1 loss, I think that's a playoff team right there. More so than USC.
All right, let's keep it moving. Syracuse, NC State. Who do you trust more, Max?
I trust Syracuse more. I like Dave Doran. I think NC State is better coached. But I trust Syracuse more for the simple fact that, again, we kind of alluded to this earlier with Devin Leary's injury. I think there's just too much unknown with NC State's offense, which was, not that great this year to begin with. And then you also consider the fact that Syracuse scores a lot of points. I think they score about a little over 38 points a game. So I just don't know, like, as great as NC State's defense is, I just don't know if you can go to Syracuse in that situation against a good team, without, your starting quarterback. And I don't know what their strategies with the backup, but when Devin Leary went out in the Florida State game, Jack Chambers came in and, only threw one pass. It was mostly just give it to the running back, run the ball, kind of do backyard football, keep away, run the clock out type of thing. That's not going to work against Syracuse, obviously, for 4 quarters. So I trust Syracuse more just because of the injury to the NC State quarterback.
Shawn, who's the best non-ranked team, and what should they be ranked next week after their performance?
That's a very, very, very good question. Come back to me in a second. I'll have to do some research on that because that's a loaded question. That's a loaded question. I'll say this. I think that is LSU off this week? I don't think that they are. I think that LSU, they're 4-2 now. I do think that they are one of the top 25 best teams in the nation. I think they just ran into a buzzsaw last week with Tennessee. And I'm not even saying that Tennessee is going to do that against every team. I just think that it was a game where Tennessee was on. LSU lost the opening kickoff, and it didn't work out. I do think that LSU finishes as a top 25 team in the nation this season, and I think they're back in it probably quicker than most. I'll also put Florida State there as well, especially if they have a good showing against Clemson. I think that they're another team that could be in that argument as well.
I like that. Maxwell, do you have a guess? I know. Actually, Maxwell, go ahead. I know you probably have a personal choice here.
Yeah, so just looking at all the options for me, like the top 3 for me was obviously North Carolina, Baylor, and then Coastal Carolina. And I think those would be my top 3. Now, North Carolina and Baylor are both ranked in the coaches poll, so that probably gives you a good indication of like who should be there. However, just looking at resume, Coastal Carolina is undefeated. This was a year that was supposed to be their down year because of all the players they lost, but they're undefeated. I kind of tweeted something out. They got a lot of support from the Coastal Carolina community on my tweet. But, I mean, just looking at their resume compared to North Carolina's and looking at Baylor's resume compared to North Carolina's, it's just like not as good. I mean, Coastal Carolina beat Army, Gardner-Webb, Buffalo at Georgia State, Georgia Southern, UL Monroe. I know most of the Sun Belt, but, like, compared to UNC who went and beat Appalachian State, beat Georgia State at Georgia State, went to Miami, who, had all the reasons to come out and, be able and want to win that game, especially after a bye week and an embarrassing performance against Middle Tennessee. Like, that was not an easy win for North Carolina to get, and they went out and got the job done. Their defense has been playing a lot better. And then compare that to Baylor. Yeah. They beat Albany, Texas State, and Iowa State. So for me, like, out of those three teams, I think North Carolina has the most quality wins. So if you're asking me who deserves to be in the top 25, I would probably go with them. But Tar Heels, the Baylor, and the Chanticleers are all worthy candidates to be in that top 25 and maybe next week, depending on what we see.
Shawn, what team in the top 7, not in the top 7, has the best chance at going to the college football playoff?
To Bobby's point, I think that it's Oklahoma State. I definitely do feel that that's the case. But from what I saw, I believe that they're number 8. I don't know what they are on the coaches poll, but they stand out to me as being the best team. I think they're going to win this Saturday, and I do think that I feel that it's probably 70% chance they do lose one of these games. Just that's more of a compliment to who they're playing. But I do think they're one of the best teams in the nation, and I definitely think they have a good shot of doing it. And the reason why that is because we're in a year where there's not a lot of hierarchy so far. I mean, Tennessee being a top 16 right now speaks to that. I don't think that I didn't think Tennessee was coming in this year, and I don't think they are right now. One of the 10 best rosters in the nation. I just think they're playing like one of the best offenses. But my point is because of that, I do think Oklahoma State is a very good team, and if they can run that gauntlet, I think they absolutely should deserve to be in the playoff.
All right. Last thoughts on Shake Up Saturday. Bobby, we're going to let you lead. We'll go Bobby, Maxwell, Shawn.
Right. Wow. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be an absolutely crazy weekend. I know I'm looking forward to it for the most part, if we're not talking about Kansas. But no, it should be a really good a really good week, really exciting. And I, for one, have a weird feeling it's going to play out chalk. I hate to say it. I feel like every time we have these, it kind of plays out chalk. I feel like, Michigan's going to beat Penn State. Alabama's going to beat Tennessee. We're just going to have like kind of the big ones, the ones you're all looking forward to. They're all just going to play out normal. I don't mean to burst everyone's bubble. So overall, I feel like the big fish will keep swimming. The other ones get the bump down.
Go ahead, Max.
Are we just giving our just in general parting thoughts?
About Showdown Saturday.
So this is the most important North Carolina Duke game since the Final Four last year. So I think it's going to be a great game. It's going to be at Duke, so expect it to be mostly UNC fans. And right now, North Carolina has the second highest probability to win the ACC, and the highest by far probability to win their division. So, I mean, not to belabor the top 25 point, but if you already have a 70% chance to win your division, going into this game, and then you beat a 4-2 Duke team that's the second best team, record wise in the conference, that bumps your chances to win your division by like 90%, and puts you at 50% chance to win the conference. If you make it to that game. So I am looking forward to the game. It's got some primetime action in Durham. May or may not be there, but either way, I hope if North Carolina does win this game, we get our damn respect.
The defense rests, Your Honor. That was very, very good, Max. Shawn, lasting thoughts on the week?
Yeah, I'm just
Showdown Saturday.
Yeah, I'm just excited about the fact that we're starting to again see some of these SEC rivalries that have not been as highly touted as they used to be. Highly touted again. This was the first time in a while you got to see Florida and Tennessee be ranked and facing each other. You've got Tennessee, Alabama, who's a top 10 matchup. You've got Mississippi State, who I think will win this week. You've got Ole Miss, who I think will win this week. It looks like the Egg Bowl is going to be for, a higher stakes than it's been there for a while. Georgia, Tennessee coming up. I know that there's always these, main games that you see. You're always going to have big games in the SEC, but it's teams that you haven't seen be in those big games in a while that are going to win them. So I think that, especially with some results that we could see from this weekend, you could see some end of the season, some of the South's biggest rivalries actually be at their biggest stakes, national prominence wise this year. And this is just going to continue that trend. It's good to say, that things are getting kind of back to normal. I'm not here to say Tennessee's back, but I will damn sure say it if we get the win on Saturday.
Absolutely agreed. Appreciate everybody joining for our Chaos and Conversation. Maxwell, Bobby, thank you very much. Looking forward to listening to the Weekenders. Obviously, that'll be released on Thursday. And Chaos and Conversation in tandem with that. Some college football conversation for all. And this is enjoy your Saturday. Stay safe. Everybody, drink plenty of liquids. I don't care what it is, but make sure that it makes you feel a different way than what you did when you woke up earlier that day. Go Vols, go Blue, Star Heels. I can't even say Boomer Sooner this weekend, and I can't even say Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and say Boomer Sooner. Let's get you above 500. Bobby.
It's a hopeful Boomer Sooner. It's not a predictive Boomer Sooner.
Rocky. Bobby, sing it with me. Rocky Top, you'll always
be home sweet home to me.
Good old
Rocky Top. Woo! Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Rocky Top.
That might have been the whitest thing that's ever been recorded. I apologize.
Bye-bye.